Eno Extreme Media UJ. Subscribe for all updates.
We'll be very brief because of the time. I hope Khaled is not trying to intimidate me into being fast. For starters, every time we go through an election, it's when I think the pattern that has been created, human rights violations are most. Those human rights violations are even higher where the people who are supposed to be to shine a torch on those violations, for instance, the civic space or the media, are muzzled, like we saw. Recently, we had an internet shutdown. And after the internet shutdown, I'm trying to paint a picture of how the election was. After the internet shutdown, we are treated to tweets saying we killed 20 NOP terrorists and we arrested over 2,000 terrorists. Now, those tweets could be easily dismissed as jokes, save for if they are coming from a decorated soldier, a general, and who commands the highest office in the military. We all know, even law students here know that being a terrorist is criminal. And we know that it's only court which can pronounce you terrorist. And we know that the highest that they have done is charge 25 people with terrorism who are still also suspects. So to label people who are in different prisons right now as terrorists could show you the picture that NOP has been portrayed. It's been criminalized. So the number of violations that have happened are several, from extrajudicial killings, like you've had, to arbitrary arrests, to enforced disappearances of not just leaders but supporters, and to a number of charges that I don't want to elaborate. The president has talked about them, Zanda has talked about them. So what is happening is, and Nina said, are we running through a criminal process, a political process, or otherwise? We shouldn't say, and we're not saying, that being a member of NOP gives you some bit of immunity from the law. No. We are only calling for basics, which is due process. Let the due process be had. Why should people be disappeared? Not just leaders, but even an ordinary supporter. I was talking to not only Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi in prison, but even some of our people who are, the other day visited Doreen Kaija and Olivia Oltaya. And they were telling me that in the course of the election, I think 2 days after elections, there were a number of people who were brought that they couldn't even sleep properly. They had to sleep what they call kagongo, because that's when they know that a number of people have been arrested. And the president talked about what is happening in our prisons. So our call this morning, and I'm using just 1 minute and I'm going to give Molongo to sum it up and hand over to president, is we don't have to be political to call out violations. First of all, the first duty is upon us as lawyers. You don't even have to be a human rights lawyer, like they call them. You don't have to be a sin saint Ombwe. I'm glad, Mr. President, when I see my brother Tony here. We would like to see more of the Tonys leave the comfort of the others to come and handle a case, because this is about the law. It's not about politics, by the way. I applaud people like Zanda. If I could share an experience, Mr. President, 6 years ago, I think in 2020, going to 2021, I was with Zanda in Masaka. They had arrested over 100 people, the Eddie Mutwenubian League group from Kalangala, as you all remember. That was my first time of physically meeting Mr. Rule here. And what brought us together was his passion for justice and the law, not politics. That's what brought us together. I remember it was curfew time, and we left court at around 8 p.m., if you remember Zanda, and we didn't know. And then our clients were sent back to prison. They were granted bail, but of course the terms could only be fulfilled the following day. We spent the whole day standing on our feet, trying to fill bail forms for 102 people in triplicate. Even, in fact, some of the shooters helped us to fill. We had to go to his chambers to photocopy. I'm glad that 6 years later, the fire in him hasn't burnt down. He's not a politician. I don't even know his political affiliation. But his calling is towards, his fidelity is to the law. And I want to end by echoing the words of the president, that if we can't find justice in courts, I want to edit it, Mr. President, that if lawyers can't fight for justice, then who shall? Uganda Farmers Association, Uganda Surveyors Society, Uganda Medical Association. If lawyers are not shouting themselves hoarse, our constitution is 30 years old. That Bill of Rights that was there, I don't think it has ever been attacked in its 30-year history than it has been in the last 4 to 6 years. I don't think the High Court has received habeas corpus applications in huge numbers like they have done in the last 6 years. Possibly they have received more habeas corpus applications in the last 7 years than in the 25-year history of this constitution. That calls to us being at the front line, irrespective of political affiliations. I thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and I will be very brief, maybe to make some few highlights. My colleague here talked about something on the Electoral Commission and saying that they must resign. And I think resigning alone is not enough, but they must be prosecuted because they are criminals. If you cause a financial loss to this country, to the taxpayers, and then you resign and go home, that would be habit. I think you should add that on that. And then maybe to talk about the issues we are facing as people who represent the people that have been arrested in this election period, campaigns and the rest, is that at this level where you find state attorneys, magistrates and judges having to discuss on what to do with the case before you enter court, when both of us are lawyers and we appear for different sides, it is unfair and something that should be called to end. It is very sickening and hard to believe that for you to enter to defend your client, a magistrate and the state attorney have had a conference before you, and then they know your fate, and then you're wasting your time to make submissions, and then they will say write and file written submission and all of that when they already have a mind. We have a lot to say about the judiciary that has been, summed up and bundled into a basket of whatever you get and receive sent to prison, and that's the end of the story. We should be ashamed as people who still love this country and love the Constitution, as good as it is. Whatever is bad in there is bad, but at least chapter 4 is still intact, and we must live to have it feel some breath in our lives. We have a number of habeas corpus applications, but you can imagine filing an habeas corpus, which ordinarily should be heard and determined within 48 hours, and the person should be brought before court, and then you have to adjourn the matter for a week for the Attorney General to file an affidavit, which is a denial as usual. They have adopted one format. We don't have the person, we don't have the person. And then a judge sits there and then tells you to file submissions and then adjourns to give a ruling. It takes a month or two. That somebody dismisses habeas corpus application, the head of the state comes and says, we had to these people, Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, in the fridge there. And then you are a judge seated and you cannot even make any statement to your judgment or ruling. Really? This is something that we need to fight for as advocates. I don't want to talk a lot, but let me give this one to summarize. Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you all of the members who have appeared here. We had a petition to present from the National Unity Platform, but I will not go through the entire petition. But a few highlights is that from the time of the nomination of presidential candidates, about 1,000 people were arrested. Some are still in prison. From the 14th day of January, that is the eve of the election, over 3,000 people have been arrested and are in prison. There is a process that the courts have just adopted that helps police transfer suspects from police through judiciary, then to prison direct. I don't know when it became an issue for a judicial officer like a magistrate to adjourn a simple bail application in a magistrate's court. I don't know. And we as lawyers, we keep quiet about all this. We have a lot of people arrested not because they are national unity platform, but because they are change-seeking forces. The big example is our colleague Marema Birizi. You speak about facts, and because someone has an office which he thinks is the highest, feels so much ashamed, and the only way to punish you is take you to prison for hate speech. Your bail will not be entertained because you have not uploaded documents. Which documents? LOC letters and national IDs. It is so hurting. This is no longer an NUP issue, but this is a national issue, where lawyers are being charged for offenses because they are criticizing the bad acts of the government, where journalists cannot do coverages because they are covering things that are against those regime apologists, where business people cannot freely trade in the markets down because they are associated with a political party. This should stop. My call is that, and on behalf of NUP, let's not look at this as an NUP issue, but a national issue, where people are being abducted in broad daylight, where people are being killed without a trial. Those are extrajudicial killings. And then someone comes tomorrow and said, we have killed 22 terrorists, a CDF of a country. This is hurting. A call to the Uganda Law Society is that we invite you, all of you. You shouldn't be a human rights lawyer. You shouldn't be related to politics or what. But these are matters of us as a nation. And we, the lawyers, are the lead in this. Let everyone live along their political sides, but let's all join efforts. We have many people around the country in almost every district. 3,000 are the people that we have tried to trace, but many are still missing. So we call upon every one of you to come and join us. We support and see how we can move this country. There is one...
abalungi abatuuliriza era abatulaba olunaku olwaleero tuchaddeko ewa Sheikh Asiraf Dembe.
Sebo sanyusa okubalaba amannya agange Yezeseeka Asiraf Dembe akola ku bizibu by'enjawulo. Omuntu singa aba alina ebirwadde musomereddwa tunywa amazzi ga lukuya nga bw'obadde ogalaba, tugenda abantu ku kyoto ne twokya emizimu emibi egibabaamu n'okulombeddwa. Abantu singa abeera ng'ali wano atuuse sobola okumulombera edduwa, ne waba atatuuse nga mpadde amannya ge naye ng'ali wala maneetaase. Enamba yange yeno eri 0707363711. Namwe bannyinaffe abali ebweru oyagala okuba nti oyagala okulombera ku dduwa ng'olina ebizibu, viza zibuze, amaka gakolongotana, sente zikola zimpita mu ngalo, ojja kumpeereza ekifaananyi kyo n'amannya go, ebyo byokka bijja kummala, nja kukulombera edduwa, ojja kutereera. Olunaku olusembayo mu mwezi mba n'edduwa ey'awamu ffenna n'abalwadde bange abakadde n'abapya. Salaamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.